Retirement Tips Radio is brought to you by Business RadioX, the voice of business in your community. Currently serving over 25 markets, the Business RadioX network is growing fast. We're teaming up with retired execs and established entrepreneurs to support and celebrate local business leaders. If you'd like to make additional income while making a difference, discover more at brxteam.com. Now, here's your host.
Lee Cantor here, another episode of Retirement Tips Radio, and this is going to be a good one. Today I got with me Corey Rieck, and he is with Long-Term Care Planning Group. Welcome, Corey.
Thank you, Lee. Appreciate it.
Before we get too far into things, tell us about Long-Term Care Planning Group. How are you serving folks?
Well, we help people own their future by understanding and implementing long-term care. We've been at it as a result of multiple personal experiences since 2001. And we focus solely on long-term care. And, we don't do any other business. We don't help folks with life insurance or health insurance or disability income. We don't manage money or do any financial planning. We do one thing and have done so pretty much for the last 20 years. And we operate in most of the 50 states, and we're carrier and instrument neutral. I know, a long answer to a short question.
Well, for the listener that isn't familiar, tell us about what long-term care means and why you should plan for it.
Well, long-term care is the kind of help you may need as a result of prolonged illness or disability. It could be that somebody is dealing with the after effects of having lived a long life. And the venue that's most commonly associated with long-term care is that of the nursing home. But long-term care insurance will provide a stream of income to pay for care in the venue the client's choosing. And it could be in their home, it could be adult daycare, it could be community-based services that support somebody living at home, like senior centers, transportation services, or Meals on Wheels. It could be assisted living or the nursing home. So it's a continuum, and it's based on how much attention and how much additional care the client needs based on what kind of safety that they need also.
So it sounds like it flexes to whatever the needs are of the client?
It does, yeah. The client and their family make the choice about where to get care. The carriers don't dictate to the clients. It just, the insurance provides a stream of income to have the client get care in the venue of their choosing.
So if like say my parent stays with me, there's ways for me to use this insurance to help take care of my parent?
Potentially, depending upon how it's structured, yes, assuming that they had the insurance prior to going on claim and so on.
Now, what about for people who think that somehow the government is going to take care of them? How does that play out in real life?
It doesn't. The only way that it plays out currently is if the client meets the state Medicaid rules for minimum income and assets. And generally, they have the client spend the money on their care to certain minimum income and asset levels, and the state will step in. And in a lot of cases, the client will get assistance in the venue that they tell people they'll never go to, and that's the nursing home.
Is that a fear of a lot of people is going to some nursing home?
Sometimes. I mean, there's early on when the product got started in 1974, it provided care primarily in the nursing home. And, there's many nursing homes that are excellent, and it's a venue that can have a negative connotation for sure.
So now for most people, at what age are they starting to think about maybe I should invest in long-term care?
Well, people need to be educated on it. And this product isn't for everyone. The planning isn't for everyone, but understanding what it is, and maybe more importantly, what it is not, is. And many times folks, they just don't understand it until it's already happened to them. And one thing that many don't realize, Lee, is that people have to be healthy to qualify for it because they have to be individually underwritten for it. And carriers tend to look at 10-year medical history, 10-year surgical history, and medications the client is taking or has taken to be sure that they can accept the client for a plan. So a lot of folks don't realize the role that their health plays in securing the coverage. And as we say, money pays for it, but health buys it.
And then at what age is a typical client of yours starting to think about it and then eventually pulling the trigger?
We start educating folks right around the age of 40. And if they've had a prior experience, sometimes it's earlier, but many times clients that are underneath the age of 40, they have other responsibilities and priorities financial planning wise. And certainly it's an age-based instrument. It's an instrument that is can be a byproduct of the client's health. So there are many factors that go into considering it and securing the coverage. But to answer your question, we start educating people generally right around the age of 40 so they can get their questions answered and figure out, what, if anything, they should do.
So now if you were advising a client, I know you specialize in long-term care, but what would be kind of the package that a person should have as they kind of work their way into retirement?
Well, everything can be geared according to how the client wants it. And there are multiple factors to consider. One, we basically have a 3-step process. One is education. We spend a lot of time educating folks. We have, I'm told, a pretty comprehensive website. We have web-based tools like the website. We have automation that helps people understand it. And then we have people that will help clients answering their questions and so on. We gear plans according to client net worth, according to income assumptions. And part of this is understanding what the cost of care is where the client is currently living or where they may be getting care. And there's a tool that's put out by Genworth. If someone Googles the Genworth cost of long-term care, there's an instrument that will detail the costs for 8 to 10 major cities in every state in the union for home care, for adult daycare, for assisted living, and the nursing home. And I know that's kind of a long answer to a short question. There are many factors that go into what kind of a plan a client wants. And many times what is available to them on the individual chassis is a direct result of how they present medically. Clients may be aware that they can build a plan, assuming they're healthy enough, and they can buy between $50 and $500 a day of coverage. That Genworth tool will help them narrow down what kind of daily benefit to create. They can get a benefit period that could pay for a couple of years all the way up to unlimited. And they can get inflation that usually ranges between 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5% compound inflation. And what that does is it escalates the daily benefit to grow each year so the client can maintain their buying power and keep up with the cost of care. And finally, there's another metric called the elimination period, and that's just another way of saying deductibles. So this coupled with the client's age and what underwriting class they land in will affect the price. So there's a number of factors that affect what we do. And it's really important that the client understands this. And like I said, we have multiple ways to help clients get to where they got to get. There's underwriting, and then there's funding, because clients may want to write one check and be done. They may want to pay over 5 years or 10 years or 20 years. So a lot of folks are out there and they have these plans that are what we call life pay, which means they're paying for the rest of their lives, or they're paying until they use it. And many clients don't understand that there sometimes can be a payment strategy too, because we have a lot of executives that we help out and they're in their high earning years and they would like to be aware of what a payment strategy might look like for 5 or 10 years so they can pay for the plan, and it's not something that they have to pay for when they're retired and perhaps living on a fixed or lesser income.
So now I would imagine that this type of insurance, in any type of insurance really, when it comes to aging, it's so hard to project because a person doesn't know, are they going to live a year? Are they going to live 50 years, 40 years? How do you help them kind of manage that and protect them?
Well, it's a great point. And you're right. A lot of this is science. Some of it is art. We We do like to get to know the client. We do like to talk about longevity. And even though we don't work with investments or anything of that nature, a client that's very, very conservative may want a longer, more conservative plan. And so there's just a lot of things to consider there. But, you want to be clear on what the client's health is and what their family history is in longevity. And those things play a pretty significant part in what kind of plan a client will build.
When you're working with a husband and wife, is each plan just geared specifically for the individual, or is there a way to do it as a couple?
Yeah, we can do it either or. A couple of factors that come into play. One is the health of the clients. Sometimes a carrier will take one and not the other. If there's an age difference, that can impact the sort of planning that we do. But all of the things being equal, the client would need to understand what the price differential, if any, is with the client and their spouse being on one plan or being on separate plans.
If you could share one piece of advice or one retirement tip for our listeners regarding this, what would be your piece of advice regarding long-term care?
Get your questions answered. It is not for everyone, but being clear on what it is, and perhaps more importantly, what it isn't, is it may or may not make sense for a client to go forward and do the planning. But certainly, at the very least, they got to have their questions answered, and they have to understand what the costs of care are in their area or where they're considering, being covered. And we referenced the Genworth cost of care tool that's out there. It's free. It's available to everybody, and they have done an excellent job of really studying the costs of care. And clients just need to be aware of what this is and what it isn't. It is not for everyone.
Now, if somebody wanted to learn more about you and your firm, what is the best website?
So they can contact me directly at 678-814-5088. That's a direct number. They could email me at Corey, Corey, and then this is all one word, at the Long-Term Care Planning Group, or they could visit our website at www.thelongtermcareplanninggroup.com.
Good stuff, Corey. Thank you so much for sharing your story today.
Thank you. You're welcome.
All right. This is Lee Cantor. We will see you all next time on Retirement Tips Radio.
Retirement Tips Radio is brought to you by Business RadioX, the voice of business in your community. Currently serving over 25 markets, the Business RadioX network is growing fast. We're teaming up with retired execs and established entrepreneurs to support and celebrate local business leaders. If you'd like to make additional income while making a difference, discover more at brxteam.com.